Today on breakfast, lunch, and dinner cooking, I am going to show you how to make this delicious apple crumble coffee cake. Okay, to get started, we're going to start with 2 eggs, and a cup of sugar, okay, and then I'm going to add about a cup of sour cream here. I decided to make a sour cream coffee cake and use up my, and you know, these containers work really good for leftovers, so wash them up and use them. Okay, and then I am going to go ahead and cream that together. That looks good. And then I am going to add 2 cups of flour. I'm taking this to cards today. I think they'll be really happy. So it's 2 cups of flour, and then a teaspoon of salt, and 2 teaspoons of baking powder, and a teaspoon and a half of vanilla, and then I'm going to add 2 teaspoons of cinnamon, can't go wrong with apple cinnamon coffee cake. Then I'm going to add probably a 1/4 teaspoon of nutmeg. Nutmeg makes everything nice. And a 1/2 cup of oil. Okay. I think that's it. I'm going to mix that all up. See what we got here. I think I'm going to add another 1/2 cup of flour. It just looks a little loose. This isn't my recipe, this is somebody else's, so I just got to go with what I think. So that's 2.5 cups of flour. Let's see. And I know it's got raw egg in it, but you always want to taste your batter and make sure. Perfect. Oh my gosh, is that good? Okay. Then what I'm going to do is I am going to, I've got my buttered pan here. I doubled this recipe so that it would be a nice big coffee cake for my card club. Put it in your pan, your buttered pan. This is a 9 by 13, I believe. Make sure you get it all. It already smells good. Okay. That looks good. Now, I'm going to spread that out in my pan. It looks a little thin, but it will puff up, and you don't want coffee cake to be super thick. There's my oven. I'm going to be baking this on 350 for 40 to 55 minutes, something like that. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my apples. You always want to smell your cutting board and make sure that you got the right side. You don't want an oniony smelling cutting board. And I'm going to get these all chopped up into little bits, and I will get back to you. Okay, I've got 3 different kinds of apples here. And using a variety of apples makes it so it gives it different flavors. But you can use all the same, of course, if that's what you have. But I'm just mixing these all up. No seeds allowed. And I'm not going to cut them up super fine, just kind of in slices. My grandmother used to sit and put every little slice in there, and she used to do a yeasty coffee cake, and I am going to get that recipe somehow. And I am going to make her yeasty coffee cake with all the apple slices all lined up. We used to take the ferry boat across Lake Michigan, and she'd be there, and Grandpa would be there waiting. She always had a red wool blanket to put over our laps in the back seat. The most loving grandparents, Ida and Richard Cranky. You could never dream of how much love they gave my brother and I. All right, that should be good. And now I'm just gonna sprinkle them all over my coffee cake. Try to get them even. Like so. A few more over here. That looks good. Okay, and then I've got, let me use about a half a cup of pecans here. You never want to dump the bag because there's always little things in the bottom of the bag, and you do not want that. It could be shell, you know, just dusty stuff, and you don't want that. So just always hand get out your nuts, any kind of nuts. And then I'm gonna cut these up. I don't want them real fine. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put them in my bowl here, and I'm going to make a topping out of these nuts and okay, I'm going to use like a half a cup of brown sugar. About a half a cup. And then a half a cup of flour. What you're going to do is make like a crumble. Half a cup of flour. And I'm going to use a half a cup of my oats. And a little tiny bit of, like a half a teaspoon of baking powder. That's unusual, huh? And I'm going to put, you know, like a quarter teaspoon of the, what did I do with my cinnamon? Oh my goodness. There it is. And I'm going to put a teaspoon of cinnamon in this. Maybe a teaspoon and a half. Okay. And then what you want to do, mix that all up. You can break up the pecans a little bit more if you want. Like that. And then I'm going to add a stick of butter. How can you go wrong with that, right? Okay. And I am going to cut it up a little bit before I put it in there. This is not soft and it's not hard. I've let it set out of the fridge for a little bit. Butter knives don't really work that well, but it's what I had handy. Okay, there we go. Now I'm going to crumple this all up. I'm glad I let it set out a little bit. It's not so hard. And this is going to form into like a crumble, like a strudel top. And you know what? I am going to put a couple dashes of salt. Whenever you have sugar, you should always have salt. That's what makes it. Even though this is salted butter. All right. Probably should have used a little bit bigger bowl. It's coming. I don't know if you ever made apple crisp, but this is kind of like the top on an apple crisp. You just basically put the apples in. I think I did a video on that, but we'll see. I'm going to add the rest of my oats. It's still a little bit too loose. You want it to go into a crumble. So that's 3/4 cup oats, and I will be putting the recipe in the description. And I'm going to add a little more flour. I'm a baker, and this is what you do. When you know how to bake, you know what it needs. So a little more flour. Because you want this crumbling. You don't want lumps. Okay. Still not crumbling the way I want it to. I'm going to add a little bit more flour. So maybe 3/4 cup of flour. Okay. Now we're getting there. You want it to all crumble apart. Okay. Now I'm going to put this on my coffee cake, like so. This is going to be so yummy. Butter, apples, cinnamon. Oh my gosh, how can you go wrong? Get all that in there, all those yummies. Okay. After you hit all the good spots, just kind of give it a little shake and make sure you got it all. Break up anything that's not. There we go. And I'm going to put this in a 350 oven for 40 to 55 minutes. And I'll show you what we got. Okay, it's coming out of the oven. Look at that beautiful, beautiful coffee cake. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to let it rest for, I don't know, maybe a half hour, and then we're going to put a nice drizzle on it. So hang on. Okay, I've let this rest for about 20 minutes. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put a cup and a half of powdered sugar in my little sifter. Thank you to my friend Patty. She just gave me this little sifter, and it's going to help me with the lumps. I'm all excited. I haven't used one of these in so many years. I guess it takes a while. I'll get back to you. I decided to go with 3/4 cup. And I'm going to take a couple tablespoons of softened butter and just probably a half a teaspoon of vanilla. Circle that all around. And I'm going to make a drizzle with milk. You got to be oh so careful, because if you put just too much in, well, you can always add more powdered sugar. But you do have to be careful with this point. As I splash powdered sugar all over I just about got it. You want it thin enough that it'll drizzle, but not. That sifter really helps, but I'm glad I only went with the 3/4 cup. Oh, just maybe a little tiny bit more, just so I can drizzle it. Okay, see, with that sifter I didn't get any lumps, so that's good. Okay, move my stuff here. And I'm just going to take this and try to do just a pretty little drizzle on it, so it looks like coffee cake. One of my coffee cakes I made, they said, "Did you buy this?" And I'm like, what an insult, but I guess it was a compliment too. So yeah, I'm glad I went with the just the 3/4 cup, because this is plenty. And that's all there is to drizzle. Just sugar, powdered sugar and, oh God, powdered sugar and vanilla and butter. How can you go wrong, right? Okay. Oh, I want to get it all. It's so yummy. Look at that, you guys. Is that not a pretty coffee cake or what? All right. Look at that. Pretty, pretty. Okay, now I'm going to cut it. show you what we got. It's still warm. All my card people are gonna love it. Okay, I guess I'll cut it here. I'll cut the whole thing later, but got to show you what we got here. Okay. Look at that. Oh my gosh. Look at that beautiful apple crumble coffee cake. Wish I could give you a bite. Thank you so much for watching. And thank you to all my subscribers. I really appreciate it. It really helps my channel. And remember, there's nothing you can't do if you put your mind to it. And love the Lord with all your heart. Bye now.